Hello and welcome to CCM Discovery. As you know, this is your go-to spot for uncovering today's freshest voices in Christian music. We have inspiring authors, comedians, and the movers and shakers that are behind the scenes shaping the industry that we love. Now, we'll also be rediscovering the classic artists who built the foundation of contemporary Christian music as we know it today. I get to be your host. I'm the lucky one, Roger St. James, and I'm here to guide you through the stories, sounds, and the people behind the music that we love. Whether you're a longtime fan or just starting your journey, let's dive deep into the hearts, spirits, and inspirational voices of contemporary Christian music. So you and I are going to discover together. Now that is Sierra Noel, and with great pleasure, thank you, Sierra, for joining us.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, and thank you for joining it. And right off the bat, I'm going to tell you why I really wanted you on the show, because we talk about a lot of times. I was on the air back in the 80s and 90s in the golden age of contemporary Christian music when everybody had a sound and you knew who you were talking to right away. And Sierra, you have a sound that is absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
And now I'm going to have to throw this out there. You're California born and raised, right?
Yes.
Then how did you find Jesus in California? I'm kidding. No. So tell us your faith story. How did this happen for you?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a Christian home, so my parents introduced me to Jesus at a very early age.
Oh, that's
And
great.
when I was about 5 years old, I accepted Jesus in my parents' bedroom.
Awesome.
And that's actually one of the lyrics in the title track of my album. It says, I was in my parents' bedroom when I said the sinner's prayer. That's a quote from the album.
Yeah, and the album we're going to talk about is Lifelong Prayer.
Yes.
And we're definitely gonna dive into that. But before we get there, why did you become a musician? What was it that took you there?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, my dad is also a musician. He was in a Christian heavy metal band in the 90s called Tourniquet. And
Oh,
so,
Tourniquet! I know. I'm very familiar with Tourniquet. I
oh,
didn't
okay, yeah.
realize
So
that.
he's
That's
the lead
awesome.
singer. The lead
Oh,
singer,
wow.
Guy Ritter. So, yeah. So anyway, I grew up in a musical home. My uncle is a worship pastor at New Life Church in Colorado Springs. It's a big mega church. And so I always was inspired by him and his worship team. They were always putting out like original like worship music. They put out so many worship albums. And so anyway, I've had influence from my dad and my uncle. But so I always knew I wanted to learn how to play guitar. And my dad is amazing. He's not much of a guitar teacher though, so it wasn't till elementary school where I realized that I could like take guitar lessons at school. So that's when I started when I was 10 years old in 5th grade. And that was awesome. And then once I started learning guitar, like I knew that that was my passion pretty much right away. And then I started singing because if I was playing guitar, I would just sing along. So, yeah, I knew from then that that's what I wanted to do.
That's really. I just I think it's so fascinating that at that young age you knew.
Yeah.
And it just became what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And how did that work with your friends at that age? I mean, because to find what you wanted to do at such a young age is a gift, And
Yeah.
how did that work with everybody around that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I had one other friend, my closest friend at the time. She also was learning guitar too, but she ended up going a completely different route with her interests, which was totally cool. But yeah, in middle school, like it was fifth grade when I started learning how to play guitar, and then soon after that, went into sixth grade, and most of the girls that I was friends with that were in my grade were really interested in doing cheerleading. And so I remember like thinking about it and praying about it like, do I want to try to do cheerleading because that's what my friends are doing? Or do I want to pursue learning an instrument and like really getting good at it? And I remember even talking to my uncle, who I looked up to, who I still look up to, obviously. But I remember talking to him on the phone about it and being like, what should I do? Should I? And I talked to my dad too, obviously, and my mom. But I was really taking it seriously in sixth grade. And I decided not to do cheer and to pursue guitar. And that was like a decision that I made very early on that I'm not just going to do something because everyone else is doing it. I'm going to do like what I'm passionate about. And there's nothing wrong with pursuing cheerleading or sports or whatever, but that just wasn't for me. So I just knew I had to pursue the path that was true to what I knew I was being called to do. And it can be lonely sometimes, and it was lonely for a while. But I feel like when you do it long enough, you start to make connections with people that are like minded and have the same interests. And then eventually eventually it all just falls into place.
Yeah, and that I love that you kind of wrapped it up with that. It falls into place because
Yes.
one of the themes that we have here on the show is answering the call.
Yeah.
And then when you do answer the call, it falls into place.
Yeah.
And you know exactly where you're supposed to be. And now this is going to be kind of a I'm going to use the word sarcastic question because you started out playing the bass, and and it's just funny because the jokes about bass players, and but what attracted you to the bass at first?
Well, I actually didn't start with bass. I
Oh
started
no,
with
okay,
guitar, but maybe there's some information around the internet that's that's
no,
confusing.
that's okay.
But
I let me know what the truth.
I started with guitar when I was 10, and then I was only ever playing guitar until ninth grade. And in ninth grade, or maybe it was 10th grade, it was like ninth or 10th grade. But anyway, I started with guitar, but then I joined the worship team at my church, and I was playing acoustic guitar at my church, and I realized that the worship leaders mainly lead worship from acoustic. And at the time, I was in high school, and it was like mainly all adults leading the worship. And so anyway, I thought, well, I'm only getting scheduled like every so often because they don't have a need for acoustic. But what they needed was bass. And so that's
Okay,
why I learned bass, because in that time of my life and at that time of my youth group, that's what they needed. And I was like, I'm willing to learn whatever I can learn so that I can be as involved with the ministry as I possibly can be. And so I enjoyed it, but it was a season, and I knew I wanted to be doing guitar long term, but I was just willing to learn whatever I could.
what I really find fascinating about you is your penchant for worship. A lot of people like to
Yes.
play the music, but you really have a heart for worship, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. What fed that for you?
Hmm. It's a good question. I don't know if I've ever thought about it because I've never not like had that mindset. But I mean, now I would say that the reason why I care so much about worship is because that's what we were created to do. That really is a textbook answer though. But it really is true that, you know, how I think of it is that everything on this earth, it's all going to fade away one day. But they really never cease to sing, "Worthy is the Lamb." Like when you look in Revelation and you look at what they're doing in heaven, they're over and over worshiping God and praising Him. And so that's what we're going to be doing the rest of our lives if we
Yeah.
believe and if we go to heaven. And obviously, there's other things that will happen, um, feasting and all other different things. But that is one of the main things I know that we'll be doing in heaven is praising God. So, and I know that when we praise God, it shifts our perspective off of us and onto God, and it's it basically just puts everything into place once again.
Oh, no, no, that's great, and that's what I really, and that's one of the things that I like about getting to do this show, and but it's also kind of weird because I almost become a stalker of the people I'm gonna. But one of the things you said is that you said worship is a gospel heart relationship, and to me that said a lot to me, and I hadn't really looked at it that way before, and I think that's just a beautiful way to put it. That you have when you're worshiping, you're bringing God into your heart and remembering everything He's done for us,
Yeah.
and it's just fascinating. And you've decided to make music a priority in what you're doing, and you're a very young person, and yet you have so much to say, and you're doing so much great work. And in fact, your debut album, Lifelong Prayer, and you've referred to it as a testimony album.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that how I view it with the Christian music realm as a worship leader is that there are some songs that are written for the purpose of listening to, like just Christian listening, and then there are other songs that are written with the intention of being sung at churches, congregationally speaking. So I
Mhm.
also write worship songs with the intention of it being sung at church. And for me, this album falls more in the Christian listening category. And it's more me sharing my own stories. And that's more the focus of it. It's more for people to reflect, um, to use it as something to reflect with. And yeah, I mean, there's certain songs on the album that are about who God is and what He's done for us. And they just kind of give overall background and context of like what I believe. And then there's also songs on there like Lifelong Prayer where it kind of talks about my own testimony and my background and how that relates to having a relationship with God and all of that.
Well, give us a little, more about your background. What brought you to the place where you are today?
Yeah. Well, I would say like one of the most memorable times that inspired the album was that when I was, in high school and I was heavily involved in the worship ministry at my church. I was in a place in life where I was focusing more on building my skills and more on, chasing basically like how do I explain this? Basically I was chasing like musical excellence. And then I was also just really involved serving at the church. And so I was more focused on that than I was on God. And not that any of those things were bad things, because they weren't bad things, but I just realized there was this one day, and I will never forget it. I just remember sitting there practicing guitar for church. I was preparing because I had service in a day or so, and I needed to just like learn all the songs for service. And I remember practicing, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I've never spent more time serving God and using my gifts in worship at church, but I've also never felt further away from God. And that was because spending all this time, I was spending all this time serving God, but I wasn't spending time getting to know God. It was almost like I didn't even know the God I was serving. Not that I didn't know him at all, but I wasn't keeping up a relationship with God. And somehow I thought, well, going to church substitutes for reading the Bible, or like practicing worship songs can substitute for praying. And so it's like, but no, it doesn't substitute for that, because you can go to church your whole life and still not really have a relationship with God. And so, anyway, all those things are good things, but what I learned is that they should be the fruit of having a relationship with God. They aren't, you know, a replacement for having a relationship with God. And so that whole experience really taught me a lot, and I wanted to write music that would really, you know, represent that time in my life, and show people the importance of having a relationship with God.
Sierra, that really touches me in a way because I was like you, fortunate enough to grow up with a mother who was an amazing Christian woman, and I grew up in the church. But like you just explained, sometimes it just becomes, I don't know how to say it, like old hat. It's just something you do, and
Yeah,
then you forget that it actually is about. You said it perfectly. It is about the relationship with
yeah,
God, not the fact that you go on Sundays and you go to youth group on Wednesdays and you go to youth group on Saturdays and everybody has a good time and you play silly games. But because that's for me, and I'm completely speaking about me in this situation, it became such just a habit,
yeah,
and it wasn't a relationship. And then I had to get, fortunately, I was able to get past that. And you just explained that perfectly. And I thank you for that, to take it from a convenience to a relationship.
yes, totally.
That that is so good. And so at this at this point, when you got there, what was it like for you? Did your songwriting change, or did you just suddenly have a new fire? Would be the best way for me to explain that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, with the songwriting, I don't think it would have changed, because I had written songs at that point, but I wasn't writing regularly like I do now. So, but I would say that I just started to, there was kind of just a shift that happened where I was like, okay, I grew up going to church, but now I'm going to really make an effort to make my faith my own and really invest. So it was more of like a mental shift and a
Mhm.
spiritual shift of just deciding, okay, you know, I'm going to spend time with God. Yeah.
What's
And that,
what's
I mean, it's not something that you become perfect at overnight. I mean,
oh
it
no.
was a journey, and it still is, but it was just, I would say, a memorable moment in my life that has forever shaped me as a person.
What's the songwriting process for you? And I ask this because way back, as my oldest son likes to say, last century, I was on the air. and I had the unique opportunity to speak with Rich Mullins. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his music,
Yeah, yeah. I am
but
familiar.
but but he wrote Awesome God.
Yeah.
And I asked him one time, I said, because it became an anthem, and it was one of the an amazing song. And I asked him, and I said, what was it like to write that song? And he just started laughing, and he said, I was walking down the side of a mountain, and I just wrote it in like 5 minutes.
Hmm.
And it just became this. He didn't think it was anything spectacular, but we all know what that song became. So what's it like for you in the writing process and feeling the inspiration and moving it forward?
Yeah, it really varies. The weird thing about songwriting is it's different every time. So you never really know what to expect. I mean, even the most experienced writers are going to have different experiences every time because every song is new. And yeah. So, but for me with the album, I made intentional, like I dedicated intentional time for writing. And I think that there's two types of writing. There's writing that is just like, oh, I was inspired in the moment and I just wrote it. And then there's the kind of writing that is like, I scheduled the time to write it.
Hmm.
And so, you know, that people can sometimes argue that, you know, songwriting is a skill, and other people argue that it's like, oh, it's just inspiration. But I believe that it's both. And anyway, all that to say, in 2020, my producer and I started writing intentionally for the album, and we wrote a bunch of songs. And then at some point, me and my producer and my other producer, I have two producers, we all looked at the songs together, we listened to them, and then we chose the best 9 songs from the bunch and then recorded them. So some of the songs were songs that I did write within a few minutes, and then other songs took, multiple times of rewriting to even get to that point. So, I mean, an example that comes right off the top of my head is Gift from Above. I mean, I wrote that almost in one sitting. I mean, it just came out so naturally. It was a song that just wrote itself. But Lifelong Prayer, I wrote that song like 3 times because it just took a while to get the song to say what I wanted it to say. And it had a lot of different sections. And the funny thing is that the bridge is actually was originally a verse, and then I changed it into a bridge, but then the first 2 verses were completely rewritten. So you get the point. Like, things
Oh yeah.
change and evolve as you're going through the writing process.
See, that's why I wanted to start our conversation here with "Gift from Above," because that song, for some reason, it really grabbed me when I started
Yeah.
learning more about you, and then as I dove in, and that's what I think is fascinating. I got into radio because I couldn't sing, I couldn't play an instrument, I couldn't write a song, so I wanted to be as close to it as possible, and just the process of, like you said, "Gift from Above" came kind of quickly, but "Lifelong Prayer" was a process, and it took you time to figure out and listen to God and make sure that it said what it needed to say. And and I just think that's why I truly thank God for the gift that I get to talk to songwriters,
Yeah.
because the work you guys do, and the the energy and the life energy you put into it, and your faith and your hope, it's just, I'm going to fanboy on you here for a little bit, Sierra. I just think it's absolutely a gift to all of us that you guys are doing what you're doing, and you specifically, like "Gift from Above." I have it on a loop now, and
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and I just, and I'm going to ask you this: what's it like to be? You're doing what you believe God wants you to do, and I, but to know at some level how it's affecting other people. What's that like for you?
Yeah, it's fulfilling. It's definitely fulfilling to know that something you work so hard on is having an impact on other people.
That's it's got to be such a, like you said, like their testimony album. It's all about where you are and where you're going.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think is going to be next for you? I mean, we're going to continue to talk about lifelong prayer because it's amazing. But where do you think you're going to be going next?
Yeah, it's going to take some time to experiment. I'm really in the experimental phase. So, I can't give a definitive answer,
Oh no,
but
no.
I would say that it's very likely that in the future everyone will be hearing more congregational worship songs from me.
I think
Yeah.
that's fascinating. That because a lot of people want to write, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but write for radio. But
Yeah.
what I really like about your music is you really have a heart for worship
Yeah.
and for congregational, and that's really cool, and it's not something we hear too much about.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot less young people pursuing the congregational worship side of things from what I'm seeing. So, but that's just what I feel called to. I've always felt called to it, and writing songs that are fresh and really paint an accurate picture of who God is. That's what I'm passionate about.
And that's what you're doing. I mean the music. I don't want to call what you're writing as hymns, but I think they could be future hymns.
Yeah.
And that's it's just that's what we need. We
Yeah.
need a fresh take, and so we're gonna talk about your song streams, but before that, we kind of do something here on the show. Is my oldest son Tyler? I refer to him as a hero. He's a fireman, and my youngest son Matthew is profoundly autistic.
Yeah.
So, and for some reason, 9 seconds means something to him. So, what I always ask is the friends who join us on the show. Um, we call it Matthew's 9-ish seconds of wisdom. So, if you have 9-ish seconds, and I'm not timing you, it's just what we call it. Just what wisdom do you have? I mean, every your songs are wisdom, but if I was going to put you on the spot here, what would you have to say to just throw out some wisdom to the people who are listening to us today?
I would say that we as humans try to plan our lives and we try to figure out where we're going, but only God really knows what's best for us. And we make our plans, is what the scripture says, but He determines our steps. And so, what I would say is that just focus on following God's will and being obedient to Him. And even if it feels hard to do that, it will pay off in the end and it will be rewarding, and God will bless that because life is really just about following God's will and being obedient to Him if you're a Christian, you know.
that was beautiful. So tell me about streams. Where did it come from, and why does this song matter to you?
Yes, streams. I love streams. It's one of my favorites. It comes from Psalm 1. It's almost verbatim from Psalm 1. And it's really just about going to spend time with God. And that whole scripture talks about, it says, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or stand in the company of mockers, but their delight is in the law of the Lord, and on it they meditate." So it basically talks about how you will be blessed if you delight in the law of the Lord, if you choose to live a life pleasing to Him. And that always stuck with me, and I just love it. And yeah, it's interesting. There's some people that interpret that when it says blessed is the one, or some translations say blessed is the man who does not walk in step with the wicked. Some translate, or like some people think that that's referring to Jesus, like he's the one who did not walk in step with the wicked or stand in the way that sinners take. And some people see it as like, oh, this is a message to Christians in general that you're blessed if you do all these things. But either way, regardless of the interpretation, it's a scripture that really reminds us that we are blessed if we walk in the ways of the Lord. And either way, following Jesus's example is gonna bring blessing to our lives.
Sierra, it has been a great pleasure to talk to you, and it gives me, as an older person, great hope that there's young people like you who are out there trying to change things and make things better, and give us the gift of your talent, and I thank you for that, and we talk about answering the call and things like that, but you really are, and thank you. I
Of
appreciate
course.
you and what you're doing. And so we're going to. Oh, I want to ask you. We've been putting it up underneath where we talk, but where can people learn more about you, Sierra?
Well, you can follow me on all my social media platforms. It's Sierra Noel Music on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And also, you can. I'm trying to think. It's mainly those three. And then for social media. And then for Spotify, Apple Music, you can just search Sierra Noel pretty much on any streaming platform you can think of, and you'll find my music.
And I highly recommend they search everywhere, find
Yes.
lifelong prayer, but specifically for me, listen for Gift from Above, and definitely you will enjoy streams. And as we're
Yes.
going out on streams, Sierra, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Of
You're a gift,
course.
and I thank you for what you're doing.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or stand in the company of mockers. The righteous they run, their delight is in the law of the Lord, and on it they meditate, and on it they meditate. I'm going to the streams, and it feels like coming home. Lord, I will confess that I've been gone for way too long. May I be like a tree planted by the streams of water. May I be rooted deep, bearing fruit in every season. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or stand in the Their delight is in the